Have you noticed you're getting less product for the same price? This is just one example that inflation is taking hold, and without some swift moves by the feds, our economy will be in for a rude awakening. Joining us on this Money Monday is our good friend Howard Dvorkin, chairman of Debt.com. Great to see you again.
Always a pleasure, young lady.
So, you go to buy that pint of ice cream and it doesn't really feel like much of a pint anymore.
It's not only that, it's the prices have increased on just about everything due to the pandemic and transportation expenses. Labor is in short supply, and so is raw materials. And it appears that things that the common guy uses, gas and food, are going up. I mean, it's costing $20 more to fill a tank of gas than it did just a few short months ago. And food prices have been going up on a quarterly basis about 5%. So it is going to hurt the pocketbooks of a lot of people in the coming months.
And you do have a recommendation on how to mitigate this, but we've been enjoying low interest rates for quite some time. So anybody who wants to take out a loan, apply for a mortgage, things like that, they've actually been getting a pretty darn good rate, but you say enough is enough. I mean, we certainly needed it during the pandemic. I mean, a lot of people still haven't been paying their mortgages during this time. However, you say that things need to change.
I personally believe that the United States of America is overstimulated at this point. There's just too much cash floating around between the extra stimulus programs that were enacted, as well as governments giving various programs and frankly not making people pay for their mortgages, their student loans, and all the other expected bills that they may have. Low interest rates are great, and for those able to refinance their house, they should refinance their house. If they want to get into a house, they got to be careful, simply because the price of housing has gone up. Once those interest rates start to go up, the pricing of houses will likely come down, and hopefully not come down too fast so people get hurt. But it is getting more expensive to live, and it's challenging for the everyday person to just try to get by.
When you talk about raising interest rates, I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, goodness, everything that we use, from whether it's applying for a loan or credit cards, things like that. So how do you make those changes without causing too much of a major ripple across the economy?
Well, it has to be done slowly. I mean, I think everybody 18 months ago was in a panic. What do we do? And they turned around and they dropped interest rates to zero. And now you need to start to raise those interest rates without blowing up the economy, because it is a strong economy. But as prices increase and wages increase, it's almost a snowball effect that we're really not going to realize that wage increase anytime soon, because it's all getting spent anyway.
Let's talk about job scarcity and those wage increases. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of business owners and lawmakers who believe that raising the minimum wage, not a good idea. But then we also have job scarcity, or employee scarcity, really. The jobs are out there, but no one's applying. So how do those all work together in dragging the economy down, and then on the flip side, bringing the economy up?
I'm a perfect example. We have hundreds of employees in the state of Florida and various states around the country. It is very tight to labor market right now, and we're having to pay higher wages than we normally would in order to attract the best people. The challenge that you have is that you have an economy that people are demanding more money, but prices are also going up at the same time. So that increase in wages may not go as far as you may think. The other thing is that minimum wage in certain states is projected to go up to $15 an hour, which is a pretty hefty amount. But business owners in general need to be concerned not at the minimum wage, but the person making $15 today is going to want $17, and $17 person is going to want 19. So I'm not concerned about the trickle down effects. It's the trickle up effects of wage increases, which concerns most business owners right now.
Well,
at the
that
same
cost gets
time,
passed on to the consumer in the end.
that's where I was going. At the end of the day, it's a great thing to have, which everybody's making a $15 or more an hour raise or wage, but those costs are going to be recouped in higher prices everywhere. So we have to be very careful of what we wish for, because you might just get it.
Howard, good place to pause. When we come back, I want to talk about tax increases. We're going to do that in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere. We are back with Howard Dvorkin, chairman of Debt.com. We've been talking about inflation, that ugly word that is inevitable at this point. You say that we are overstimulated. We have a jobs market that is saturated with jobs, but not enough people to fill those positions. We've got people demanding higher wages. Raising the minimum wage could spell trouble in your view. Let's talk about tax increases, because this is something that lawmakers have put on the table time and time again. We need to raise taxes. We need to pay for programs. What do you think about this?
I think it's a bad idea. As a practicing certified public accountant, I've never been a big fan of overtaxing people. The problem is government needs to get more efficient and do things that are smart. Right now, I don't believe on a national basis we're doing smart things, and I don't want to get political, but at the same time, a lot of these tax increases are driven by politics, not by rational thinking. The wealthy are the enemy. And politics, unfortunately, is theater, and there has to be a villain and there has to be a hero. And the villain right now are the job creators and the wealthy, and the hero are these politicians that want to maintain their power, frankly. And it's going to increase the cost of virtually everything. So don't be surprised. There's not that many wealthy people that can pay for all these programs. So again, the middle class is going to get slammed with additional taxes that they probably won't even know they're getting hit with.
And usually it's the middle class that really can't take advantage of any of the programs. They don't have enough money like the wealthy to just survive on the cash that they have on hand. And they're also making too much that they can't take advantage of certain programs and incentives to help them along. So when you talk about somebody who says, no, I think we need to raise taxes because that money will then go into this program, I mean, timeline, what are we even thinking? Because it's not like an overnight thing either.
No, it's not an overnight thing, and frankly, it's going to be a rough couple of years between the effects of the pandemic, between tax increases, inflation. Do you realize that 50% of Americans pay no taxes whatsoever? That's incredible. That's an incredible amount. That don't pay a dime. And obviously that's a good thing. But the burden falls onto the middle class because the wealthiest 1% pay 50% of all taxes. And that's going to be a hard grape to squeeze to get more juice out of in the coming years. The other problem is inflation. Inflation during the month of May rose 5%. Those are numbers you hear in South America. And that is an incredible amount of money going out the door for virtually nothing.
Let me ask you this last question here, Howard. So what can people do today? I mean, while the feds and the lawmakers are coming up with solutions, what can we as individual citizens do to prepare for what's to come down the line in these next couple of years?
I believe it would be logical to advise people to hold on to cash right now, try to start to build their cash. And right now we're at a point where the stock market is going crazy, frankly, and it's not sustainable. So it might make sense to take some gains, even though the fear of missing out on the big hit may be upon us. But I think the smart person needs to sit there and maybe go into cash investments, try to get a little more conservative, take your winnings, so to speak, and put them away, put them under your mattress, because eventually what goes up does come down, and the stock market is certainly that. Also, if you have appreciated property, you might want to sell it again with the lower capital gains rate, which is likely to increase next year. You can save a tremendous amount of money selling property and your taxes associated with that, and get probably the highest rate we're going to see for that property for years to come.
Howard, please tell me that there's not going to be a repeat of 2008. Please tell me.
I will not tell you that, but I will tell you we're into some bumpy winds ahead of us, bumpy roads ahead of us, and frankly, I don't believe that we're heading into a economic period like we saw in 2007, 2008, and all the way through 2010. Right, yeah. But there is going to be some damage to this economy. There has to be. The governments are spending too much money, and somebody has to pay for it. And unfortunately, it's not going to be you or I. It's going to be passed on to our children. And America is in the crosshairs right now.
Well, we
have to be conservative.
We appreciate you giving it to us straight. Best to know now. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let's not stick our heads in the sand. Howard, thank you so much.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
We're back after this.